Okay, welcome everybody. We are stepping both feet back into the matrix. Are we stepping with both feet or are we just diving head first, Nikolai? What is it?
We're just realizing we're both feet, head, and the whole body and everything else in it. So no action required.
Yeah, it's an interesting week. I know before we pressed the magic record button, you were speaking about a lot of different energies going on, whether it's this week or this month.
Well, it's right now. It started end of July. We had basically 0808, which is it's called portal, but the simpler way to understand it, it just specific things align where specific type of energy starts traveling towards the planets, throughout the planet, and now we're approaching sun eclipse, which is accompanied by parade of 6 planets, which is accompanied by meteor shower. All these astronomical events are just bodies that shape the type of energy that is experienced on the planet. Because if we really think about it at the level of physics, every body has gravity. Every planet has gravity. Every body also emits its own vibration. Especially if we take sun, which is basically in our scenario, sun is our star around which everything is happening, and that's the highest consciousness in our system, in the solar system we live. And other systems have their own stars with different type of energy, different types of planets, combination of different energies, and etc. So as these cosmic bodies change positions, we experience different mix of energies because all of them have either gravity or energy emitted, or etc. So the energy that is hitting us now, as we're today approaching the solar eclipse, and it will continue, I think, for the next couple of weeks, because I think there is another cosmic event August 22nd, 28th, I don't remember. It actually matters less, and I explain why all of this matters less. Is the energy that we're experiencing now bringing everything that is not true to the surface. On a personal level, anything in our personality identity that is illusionary or fake, or something we picked up as we grew up in this matrix, in this world, and adopted and started calling ours, or calling included in a definition of I, that is not real, is coming to the surface, and we're getting cleansed of it. And as a result, on a planetary scale, there is like more disclosures happening. Like, I don't know, the trial with Fauci that's happening over COVID. There's more and more crazy disclosures, right? Then there's just a bunch of other news coming to the surface. Everything goes in the peak. But more importantly, that's global events. More important, what's happening on an individual level. Whatever is not in harmony with your true authentic version of self is coming to the surface, because the energy of sun is considered in astrology, this is the energy of your main expression. And when the sun goes into eclipse, it's per se, and all this I'm like explaining it as through a metaphorical way of explanation. And that's really what astrology is kind of metaphorical way of explaining cosmic physics, or physics of our solar system and overall galaxy and universe and etc. So when the sun goes in eclipse, it's per se everything that is in the shadow that is not serving us has to come to the surface and come out. And one way of going through it is being very rigid and attached to the identity you've created for yourself. And then this process that's unfolding right now is painful. And I'm observing a bunch of people in my circle, once again, through friends, clients, myself, and etc., having not pleasant experiences because they have an image of who they are, the identity, the personalities, the roles they've created. And as some of these block, because at the end of the day, those are energies as well. Subpersonality or identity, let's say a role of I'm a businessman. That is you basically a specific type of energy that you've shaped and inserted into your energetic structure. People think it's some kind of a woo-woo or non-tangible descriptor of their identity. It is very tangible. And if you don't have as part of your incarnation program or as part of the design of this current life, if you don't have that energy and you've adopted it from somewhere outside, it prevents you from becoming who you are, number one, and as a result, becoming truly sustainably happy, and as a result, preventing you from expressing your creativity that you're supposed to express in this life on this planet, or creating a service, a product, or I don't know, working, interacting with people in a specific way, because that, let's say, energy, and I'm right now picking on the energy of a businessman, right? If it's not yours, it's not yours. And now through this period of August, all that is being basically removed, recycled, and etc. And the best way to go through this period is just to surrender and not try to hold on to anything, because in a moment it might seem like a person is losing something. And by the way, on top, it's not just related to personality. People will be, I don't know, losing some stuff in their material life as well, that is preventing them from being authentic versions of themselves. And any kind of a perceived loss is not in reality not a loss, is a cleanup to make it easier to become an authentic version of self. So I'll pause on that, but that could be a separate. That's why the field of astrology exists, interpreting the energies in a way that is understandable to human mind. The only challenge, a lot of people in the field of astrology suck. There's very few high quality astrologers that do interpretations well. And that's why what I wanted to mention, even the stuff I'm saying right now matters less, because the reason, let's say, even astrology exists, or that knowledge, is predominantly to calm down the mind. Oh, something's going on. I don't understand what's going on. So now Nikolai kind of understood that I might feel explained that I might feel discomfort. So I'm just going to surrender and allow the process to unfold. So whoever developed the skill of surrender and allowing and understanding every process that's happening is a process with a grand meaning designed by a creator. And it's mostly our mind that gets in the way and slow things down and creates suffering and pain. So even without understanding any of this, let's call it metaphysics, esoterics, astrology, astronomy, physics, and etc., there's a harmonious way of living through it by just surrendering and allowing things to unfold. Like I was just on a session with a businessman who for the past 3 days is experiencing a lot of fatigue and like tiredness, cannot get, and like started on Monday, and Monday is a go time, right? And given we worked with him extensively for some period of time, he was like, oh, I remembered everything I've learned. If this is what's unfolding, that means I need to create space and just relax and, don't go hard on myself. That means there's something rewiring, some energetic shifts are happening, some older energies are leaving, some new energies are entering. So he was just, I relaxed and I accepted the fact that I have fatigue, slept more, didn't remove some meetings, didn't book additional meetings, just accepted the fact that's part of the process. Whereas if he resisted, he would have made it even worse. So by the time he got today to our call, he was like, yeah, the past couple days were challenging, and per se, we can call it rough. But in reality, he was getting like major cleanse and an upgrade. So looking from a side, he moved forward significantly in his evolution. Looking under microscope on Monday and Tuesday, he had shitty Monday and Tuesday. And that's the reason as esoterics, metaphysics, astrology, and the list goes on are valuable, because through that knowledge, we calm down the mind that is screaming something is off, something's not understandable, I'm going to resist and fight. It's like, oh, there is some kind of planetary energetic process happening. gonna same like the past couple days, things unfolding in my personal life where there's some strong energies in one aspect of my life, and I was like, okay, that aspect of my life is going through transformation, and I just gotta accept the fact. Like, I could try to resist and pretend that it's not happening and kind of sweep it under the rug and not lean into it, but either I want it or not, it will come out. And if I don't let it come out right now, it will come out in another period of time, just stronger and more surprising and more unpleasant. So might as well lean into it.
Yeah, you don't need no broken arms. No.
Exactly.
So, sort of a segue on that.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to go into today was the concept or idea of legacy, legacy in the soul. And so, if we're looking at it through the lens of the Matrix, how does one live a life of true impact and remembrance? Because I've been thinking about this a lot, how you have some people who die and are simply forgotten, and then you have some people that die and are either remembered, or some of them are literally remembered forever in terms of almost like a legacy. So what's going on there, first of all, and how should someone be living? Point blank, first of all, how should someone be living? And then next, why is it that some end up almost creating a legacy about their time in this incarnation, and others aren't even a footnote?
And I'll start with legacy because that's going to lead me into how somebody should be living. So first of all, the current version of understanding of legacy is quite a distorted / polluted concept. And the legacy has been created. In previous episodes, we've chatted about types of civilizations and the gray field that existed on this planet. And we were a technocratic civilization that is in the process of transitioning into bioenergetic civilization. And to do a quick recap, technocratic civilization is all about protecting personality and identity and changing and influencing external world so it doesn't trigger or impact the personality and identity, and hence it freezes the evolution, and hence the personality identity needs to build technologies to make that stale personality identity more powerful, to further gather resources and protect it. So it starts depending constantly on external things. Whereas bioenergetic is all about the civilization has been created to evolve, and everything is in the civilization is evolving. So nothing is constant and nothing is stationary. The only thing that's constant is the movement and evolution. So that is not stopping at any point in time. So what it means is, in bioenergetic, we say, well, when we are aligned with who we are, we have access to significant amount of superpowers, and we become sovereign and self-sustainable. And what I mean by that is we allow the energy to travel through this body. As a result, this body gets energized, stays healthy. Part of that energy we express to the world to create something valuable for the rest. And that's really the let's call it the very dumbed down version of understanding by bioenergetic civilization. So everything is within us. We're sovereign because we aligned with the energy of our soul spirit, and aligned with the energy of the environment, the sector of universe we're in, and we're just allowing to energy flow through us. And energy flowing through us results in ideas, feelings, and actions that we express to the world. And that's a natural way. That means we've integrated ourselves into absolute systems. An absolute system is the system created by creator, absolute, whatever, how things should flow here. So where I'm going with this, most of the legacy and the concept legacy was shaped by by technocratic version of civilization. And if you really look deeply into the legacy that remained, it's predominantly people or distorted story of people to further entrench the gray field slash technocratic civilization. Underlying suffering, striving, competition, domination, and etc. And the field picks, and then the funny thing is some people are far away from great ideals of anything in life, but it was convenient for the grander, let's call it old version of a matrix with great field to pick, let's say, Churchill and start promoting Churchill. But now a bunch of things are starting to come to the surface that he was far away from a person who uh, we should try to copy leadership from, because he did so much fucked up shit and so many crazy manipulations, so many games, so many, I don't know, caused so many unnecessary death, and the list goes on and on and on. So most of the legacy that remained, and like now let's take another example, Jesus. The story of Jesus has been distorted. First of all, it's cumulative story of many messiahs that existed throughout ages, accumulated into one story, written in a way to use religion as a political mass management system. Because religion, the definition of the word of religion is a methodology to connect mind, soul, and spirit. That's what religion means at its essence. But the current version of religions that are offered to us in no way helps us to connect with our own soul and spirit. It says, you don't know how to do it. We're the middleman. We will tell you if you're a good person or not a good person, if you're sinner or not sinner, what you should do to heal things. And by the way, best if you just donate us a bunch of money and we'll just release your sins. The reason, for example, I like Eastern Europe in 90s as a Soviet Union collapsed. Well, no, let me start at a different place. The reason I like the Eastern Europe places like Russia, there's no makeup on most of the things. They are as they are. So, for example, 90s collapse, mafia and organized crime more or less running the country. And you could come to a church, there was a menu, how much money you needed to donate if you killed somebody, if you stole something, and etc. It was very transparent. And that's at essence what religion is still. It just has, in a Western world, has a lot of makeup, and now the Russia put on the makeup as well. In 90s, it was very transparent. Okay, you were part of organized crime, or you're part of government, because government was killing a lot of people. You feel like you sinned and you killed some people. Okay, for every person, you got to donate $5,000, all your sins released. So where I'm going with this, coming back to Jesus and etc., that story, or let's call it the legacy of Jesus. It's not a real legacy of Jesus. It has been rewritten, overwritten, combined with legacies of others, and etc. And it was all done to further propagate the gray field. And the gray field, the pyramid, where every level at the top has more resources, and they take in resources from the layers below. The bioenergetic civilization, every layer at the top gives energy to every layer below so that they can grow, evolve, and become as powerful as the layer above. Whereas the Technocratic, no, I'm going to make sure so you stay always at the level below, because I want to milk you of energy and resources to ensure I retain my position. So where I'm going with this, most of the stuff that has been recorded, written, like Britannica, Wikipedia, internet, books, stories of people, the legacy, it's all garbage. It's all old energies. It's leaving, and it's already happening. Matrix is not sitting idle. Guess what's happening? It has been a big scandal. Anthropic and all other AI companies buying up books. Many books are in single print, left in a single print example. So there's one last print of that book left, digitizing them, feeding into model, destroying the physical book so nobody else get access to that print and what was printed in that book. And that's what all AI companies are doing. They want to become oligarch. Well, they are already kind of oligarchs, but oligarchs of knowledge. And that's great. Let them print, destroy all these books, because those stories are for the old version of civilization. They're relevant. Yes, some books are written in a way where it teaches the values, the core values of, like, say, honesty, fairness, transparency, truth, and etc. That exists in many stories and books, but that exists only as part of books. Overall story is still soaked with the values of all technocratic civilization. So we're watching the legacies being destroyed as we speak, because the process has already begun and is happening, transitioning from technocratic to bioenergetic and aligning with new values.
So then, to go back to the how we should actually be living, what would be the criteria according to the Matrix? That would be, the either the most sustainable or is just the most in alignment with people moving forward.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add. First of all, everything is recorded, so nobody is ever lost. Like, meaning the history of everything is stored energetically all the time. So even somebody who, like, let's say somebody actually did great deeds and they haven't been highlighted by the old version of technocratic civilization because they were honest, they did the right thing, that was not valuable to promote. What was valuable was domination, competition, scarcity, and etc. Those types of stories. The story of that person is still recorded, and what's going to be interesting, and it's already happening. I don't have a specific example right now, but I'm like starting to notice this trend where on X you start reading about a person who you've never heard of, but that person has already talked about some values that this new version of civilization is aligned with, and that person is going into a spotlight. And by the way, in previous episodes we've chatted extensively about, in the episode especially, about the whole field of self-development and spirituality, where there will be also reset of the idols or teachers of this space, or gurus, right? Where we're going through right now, we're going to see a lot of, per se, gurus, coaches, etc., examples of leaders disappear and dissipate into nothingness, and new people will emerge out of nowhere. Nobody would ever heard of them, and etc. And we're going through that process because set of values has changed. And coming to the question of how to live to create a real, I guess, legacy. I wouldn't even call it legacy, because legacy does not matter. What matters is how did you actually live life? Did you enjoy it? Were you happy? And by aligning with every moment, asking yourself, what I'm doing right now, does it bring me joy? Does it lead to happiness? Yes, and some things in the moment might be stressful because they're pushing you to expand. But then once you get over this hump of expansion, you're still supposed to experience authentic, sustainable joy and happiness. So asking yourself questions: does this action, does this project, this way of communicating with my business partner, romantic partner, with my friend, with my family, lead to truth and ultimately joy? Because joy and happiness does not exist without truth. They cannot exist because, all of us had experiences when we didn't say complete truth, or we did something funny, and that stays nagging in the back, and that creates stress. What if person will find out? What if instant karma will catch on to me, right? So, and as we do many of those, even if they're tiny, they could be the tiniest things possible, like steal a gum in a store and then not tell your romantic partner something that didn't seem like matter, but in a moment it felt like it would have been honest to say it, and it's like not even a big thing. All these things accumulate and they start nagging, they start creating stress. That stress starts lowering the vibration because we stay in a constant state of worry, anxiety, and that keeps increasing. And that's why in the beginning of life, it's much easier to do these lies, manipulations, and whatever, because we haven't collected the bucket of shit yet. And it's interesting the life plays out. Over life, we collect the bucket, but also amount of energy that we have is decreasing. And when those two cross, right, less energy and bigger bucket to carry, that's when things implode. That's when anxiety from being background anxiety becomes dominant feeling in like right into our face, and the person becomes dysfunctional. So living life in a way that creates, let's call it, harmonious legacy is by living that authentic version of own life. And the metric for that, are you experiencing authentic joy, genuine joy and happiness as you interact with yourself and the world? Because number one thing that's even harder is to start being honest with yourself. Like a lot of people are trying to improve their relationship with their romantic partners, business partners, blah, 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 the list that goes on. But there's a very simple question to ask. Do you actually love yourself fully? And 99% of people do not love themselves fully. Like I'm like, I've done extensive amount of work on myself, and I still keep discovering things where I don't fully love myself, you know. And I was like, wow, why am I treating myself that way? I was like, so why am I so hard on myself here? Yeah, everybody here loaded with karma so we can learn, or everybody loaded, let's call them, with negative traits of character so we can learn and harmonize them. And as I express some of them, I could like, oh, like old version of me would like pop up and like, oh, why are you behaving that way? I thought you should be perfect by now. There's no such thing as perfection, because we're in a system of evolution. There's always a thing to discover where we can improve. If there was no place to improve, ultimately life becomes meaningless. And what's interesting, as we improve, that expansion happens, more energy travels, we experience deeper states of joy. And that's what we program to seek, joy and happiness. And another thing to touch on about technocratic versus bioenergetic. Technocratic has a very deep concept that material objects bring this joy and happiness. There's a very strong focus on material. When I build $1 billion company, I will experience this. When I live in such house, I will experience joy and happiness. And it's all about material. In a technocratic world, people imagine their future as material images. In bioenergetic, people realize and imagine their world as the state they're experiences. And I'm like, oh, I'm happy. I'm sitting on the couch and I'm happy. They're imagining and they're wishing the states. And when you deeply talk with any technocratic person and you ask them why multiple times, sooner or later, they're like, oh, the reason I want is this villa because I want to feel comfort, peace, and happiness. But they never experience it because the technocratic world creates these images. You get to that villa, but you haven't done the evolution of yourself to experience happiness, peace, and comfort, because it's inner state. It's not external. The house doesn't give it to you. You can be sitting in the shittiest house ever and be the happiest person ever. It's not dependent on a theatrical set that surrounds us. So hence, technocratic ends up being on this treadmill where they think they're moving, but they're still in the same spot. Where I just had a conversation with somebody who knows, I think he's the third or fourth richest person in the world. And that third or fourth person to the world in the world was complaining how he's running out of money, how it's not enough.
Wow.
So
we're not talking richest in America. We're talking the world.
World. Yeah. And it was like an intimate conversation between two of them. And so it's not about the assets and the money bank account. He has all that, but his state that he's any second will lose it, or there's not enough, there's more optimization that needs to happen, that AI race might impact some assets. The list goes on, right? So seemingly that person should be the last person worried about material resources. Like literally, not only he will outlive the resources, I don't know, thousands of his generations can be supported by those resources, But that's not the fact. So that's why it's really bioenergetic is all really about the state. And once we realize that, then we realize we can give that state to ourselves now, independent of the material settings. It's like we want to experience joy, you can ask, or let's say peacefulness. You ask yourself, where last time did I experience peaceful? Oh, when I was on the mountain or when I was in the park under a tree. Where's the closest tree or where's the closest mountain, right? Well, for me, the mountain is 10 minutes behind my apartment over there. So I can very easily get there. If somebody, okay, mountain hard to get, I was like, well, there are some trees. I can see them. I can touch them right from my balcony, you know? And even if you're in a city, you can walk to a park or take public transit to a park. So there's not a state that you cannot give to yourself right now. It's all accessible today, right now. You don't need to wait for if-then statement. Or if I have this or once I have that, then I can experience that state. Similarly, people, oh, but what about safety? I live in an unsafe neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. Similarly to that richest person in the fourth richest or whatever the number, doesn't matter, person in the world, he's concerned for his safety. So a lot. And actually, the biggest fear in the technocratic world is fear of losing life. That's why all these rich people are buying bunkers. And we talked about it in the previous episode. I'm not going to get into details here. But it's funny. People who are supposed to feel the safest don't feel actually the most scared for their life. And the person who is growing rice field in, I don't know, in Indonesia doesn't even think about safety. It's like, yeah, what's the worst gonna happen? Like a snake gonna bite me? Okay, if that's the case, that's the case. You know, I'll deal with it when that happens. So in summary, the way of living is just truth, authenticity, optimized for joy, authentic, genuine joy and happiness, and that will lead in the right direction. And then when it's interesting is once you get into that state, also let's ask ourselves why a lot of people want to build legacy. Because they are seeking some kind of external energy that will flow towards them, recognition, love, and etc. Like I was seeking a lot of that, recognition, influence, and etc. But once I started experiencing joy throughout most of my day, that stopped being a variable because it's irrelevant. Because I already have everything that I desire. Why do I need to be popular, or why do I need to be loved if I am loved by me? And I experience love that comes out from within out, rather than trying to dependent on unpredictable love of others. And as we know, leaders come out of fashion. Everybody loved Fauci. Very little people love Fauci now.
Yeah. Well, or those that love him are so committed to the script or committed to the ideology that they won't even let it go. And that's sort of interesting where even if you were to present facts, or well, let's not even call them facts. Let's present new information.
Yeah.
New shit has come to light. People will double down on anything that still aligns with their worldview.
Fear of changing their identity and personality, right? Yeah. They freeze it, and any change challenges their existence. But in reality, what it challenges, it challenges existence of that personality that was created. And that personality wants to survive because it's energy and it wants to eat energy. When you're saying now we're going to be different, that means the sub-personality of that personality has to die. It will not exist anymore. And it's real fear. We, as humans, experience it as real fear of death, even though it's a concept of us that's dying. It's not our body. And that's where people really have trouble evolving. And that's why what you're underlining, what we're seeing, some people really double down on Fauci and protecting him. After like the latest thing that came out, that the level of miscarriages increased from 12% to 86% if a pregnant woman took a shot, and the vaccine shot, and he had it in his emails, right? He knew the data, and he still went on TV and said all pregnant women should take vaccine shots.
Yeah. So I have a certain question. Like when people die, when people pass on, right? We can have people in our personal circle or extended circle, or for some people even it's almost seemingly so far removed, yet that loss or death seems to impact them personally in some way. And conversely, you might have someone that is perceived to be close to you, they pass away, and there's no effect. What is this pointing to for us as individuals and souls and as consciousness when the death of someone has an effect on us? What is that telling us about ourselves?
That we don't understand the concept of death.
Tell me
Yeah.
more.
Death is, coming back to Russian language, смерть is death, which basically stays for смена мерности, change of dimension. Death is just change of dimension. The energy, the soul and spirit that is loaded in this body, through this body experiences this, let's call it physical dimension. In reality, it's still energetic. It's just dense energy that is perceived as matter. But it's still energy. Everything gets disassembled to electrons and protons and neutrons and etc. And that has been proven. We don't need to, do a physics class here. So when somebody dies, the energy that was managing that specific body, that's bioenergetic, biochemical body, that energy has exited that body. The body is going back into the ground and becomes earth and becomes nutrients for plants and animals and whatever, right, to grow. So there's nothing bad about the process. It's a natural process. As we come in to these bodies, we come into these bodies with a mission. And once we complete the mission, we leave this body behind because it's time to move either into a new body on the same planet for a new mission or a completely different sector of universe. Our consciousness goes and picks another vessel through which we claim the quest or the game of evolution. And actually exiting this body, if once the person completed their mission, is big success and celebration. What's the point of being stuck in this dimension? The other dimension, each dimension has its own beauties, and I recommend it to you. And almost like many people, I recommend the book by Falco, the guy who created Damanhur spiritual community in Italy, which that community is going through its own death/transformation because they got lost. And in the first place, I feel like they were lost. But they produce some high quality materials. So Learning to Die, I'll include the link. And also the interview with Ram Dass right before his death. I think it was 1 or 2 days before his death. And it's a half-an-hour interview on Netflix. And it's very powerful. So when we understand death is just change of dimension, then and in some cultures and traditions, they retained it. They actually celebrate death. Many souls that exit this body are very happy about exiting the body. But since most people have lost the bioenergetic ability to read energy and interact with energies when they are not in the vessel that speaks through the mouth, they perceive it, oh, holy fuck, that person's suffering, it's so bad, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not suffering. They're finally, like, the way Ram Dass describe it, it's like removing the shoe that was one size smaller that you worn the whole life. It feels very relieving, very light, because the shoe was always smaller, because our consciousness that loaded into these bodies, especially for star seeds, I'm not talking about other civilizations here, as I don't think they're watching this podcast. They're star seed souls that loaded here. We can call ourselves your soul, my soul. In one way it's being called, I heard, is we're fallen angels. We had to go from super high vibrational spaces, downgrade ourselves to minuscule capabilities to load into this body in this low vibrational space. That's what this mission in this body is trying to bring light and expand light into in the sector of universe where mostly darkness is present, or chaos, in other words, and structure that chaos into cosmos so it starts behaving itself as harmony and order. So it starts producing more life. That's where we are in this body. So dying is not a bad thing. And with that said, dying prematurely just because you find this life is hard, that's dumb, because your soul picked a mission. Yeah, many of these missions are not easy. They're difficult. And it's the point of it. There are many benefits if you can navigate this mission. Then you're basically throwing up your hands and saying, "Oh, I cannot do it," and start whining and being a weak person, right? So, but otherwise, if a person completes their incarnation program, it's a celebration. Okay, it's done. And the way it actually works, soul and spirit stop sending the energy to the body, so it starts aging faster. And by the way, people who highly consciousness, including all the yogis, gurus, and etc., they know their deaths far in advance. They know when they're going to exit the body, and for them, it's a very light and pleasant experience, and they choose how they exit it. Many of them just walk away in the forest, on the mountain, in the cave, and have a very pleasant nirvana type of experience, leaving this body and letting these shoes behind and going into other higher vibrational dimension. So because we misunderstand, many people misunderstand what death is. They react in a very negative way because for the longest period of time we watched movies, read books where death is bad, is negative, is tragic, and the list goes on. So we're just playing out the programs that are not original, not ours. They're instilled, and they're instilled to produce more low vibrational energy so that this planet stays low vibrational, so lower vibrational civilizations can continue existing here. And there was a point of creating stories about death being negative to further reinforce planet never, and civilization never transition into high vibration.
So I want to finish on death talking about a few different things because I'm really curious on your take on them, since there's a number of different ones that we've witnessed throughout the world. So if we're looking at, for example, different rituals around death, and you had spoken about how some places have it as a celebration of sorts, right? But there's, for example, different burial rituals. Like I think it's I think it's one of the religions, like if you've got tattoos, you can't be buried, or you can't be in a church, or I know there's different rules around, like, hey, have you been tattooed? Have you had this done? Then certain places, you can be buried. I mean, I think others, you need to have all your organs intact. I think others, you've got being cremated. You've got, hey, I go to the cemetery. You've got people that, the Egyptians used to embalm individuals. You got people, they go in a big crypt. They go in a big tomb. Put me in the pyramids. So what of these, if any, really align with the soul and what the soul wants to be able to experience, post death?
Well, so you opening up a massive topic. So even the materials I've recommended, they're more explaining the harmonious perception of transition from one dimension to another. What you started touching on is also the whole reincarnation part and etc. So, for example, some Maori tribes, like Maui and not Maui, what are the Maori tribes in New Zealand and Oceania and all these islands are tattooed with specific tribal tattoos. For example, that tribal tattoo fixes that soul to reincarnate in that tribe. And that limits soul's ability to move on and have broader options for evolution. So people who understand esoterics and metaphysics, they use, like in Egypt, they understood that deeply. They use all types of rituals to bring in the same soul into ruling families, like the royalty, the English royalty, understand this deeply, and they have more or less the same souls circling in the same family. With that said, it seems like it's to some people might seem like that's a big advantage, but in reality, it's a big disadvantage. We've chatted about it in the last episode before this, where those people are just talking heads. They have no real freedom. They're just function of a matrix. They have to obey specific rules, hold specific image, blah blah blah. It's actually a very shitty life they're living. So where I'm going with this, there's a lot of information about reincarnation and instruments. How do you bring the same soul, keep it in the family, keep it in the lineage, and etc. And I'd say I would simplify everything. The best thing is to give full freedom to the soul to make decisions from a high vibrational space, because this space only has so many data points that we perceive, right? Where soul exists, like let's call it here we have access to 1 billion data points. Where soul exists in a high vibrational space, it has billion of trillions of data points. So from that point of view, from that vantage point of view, it knows better where to incarnate next, and etc. So where I'm going with this, the best way of thinking about death is the fastest release of the soul from this dimension. The soul is stuck in this partially stuck in this dimension until remnants of the vessel or the body it used during the incarnation still exist. So that's why, for example, cremation is the fastest way. You just like burn the body. There's no cells of the vessel left, so there's nothing physical pulling the soul. That's one aspect. The other aspect, memories, and that's what brings us to legacy, right? The more you're remembered on this planet, or your body that you used under some name, part of you is stuck here in this dimension, and that creates a limitation of what and how the soul can do, right? And so the worst thing that relatives can do is continue crying over somebody who died. They get stuck in between worlds. They can't even, they literally, that's how ghosts or poltergeists are formed. It's basically a soul without the body. There is just cloud of energy that's moving around in this dimension without the capabilities of this dimension. Because it doesn't have arms, eyes, tongue, like doesn't have anything anymore. And poltergeist, that's our classification system. Ghost is an energy that, like a soul that got stuck and didn't transition because something was done, either ritual or a relative is still mourning and not releasing them, and the emotional charge is so strong, the soul that cannot ascend, right? And then once the soul is stuck for long enough, it needs to feed on energy. So the soul is just mix of energies, right? So it's a floating mix of energies that can float through me, through your body, and it needs to feed on energies to kind of survive in this in-between world. So what it starts doing, what's the easiest thing to do is to produce low vibrational energies. And that's when it starts transitioning to what we call poltergeist or advanced stuck soul or ghost, where it can inflict thoughts as energies. It learns how to use energy to influence live beings or humans, other humans, to produce the type of energy it feeds on. So that's why sometimes when you move into the whole thing, haunted houses and etc., it's all real. It's just, those stuck bodies are floating around there. If they get advanced, they can really start creating sounds, move objects, and etc., because it's a strong impulse of energy. Like right now, kinetalesis or whatever it's called is being studied, where you can move an object with your energy. And there is, I think, a master in Australia who can do it quite well. I don't remember his name. I'll look it up. So then non-incarnated or stuck soul, which we can call ghost or advanced ghost, can do that using energetically, and that's how we get haunted houses. And that experience is horrible for those souls because they have super limited capabilities in this in-between world. So it didn't move on to the world of souls where they have full capabilities, high consciousness, integration into all these systems. It's not in the body, so it doesn't have the access to the vessels through which to interact with this matrix. So it's in the shittiest of the shadiest places. So the best, burn the body, and release emotionally, psychologically, and wish all the best to that person, relative, and etc., and forget about it. And connecting the dots to legacy, a lot of people who've created legacy actually created challenges for evolution of their souls. Created legacy, right? Wanted to be remembered, build monuments, wrote books, and etc. And because it was done from a place of ego, not from a place of understanding evolution. From a place of understanding evolution, you do your part and you don't want to be remembered because you want to be free to move on to other sector of universe without any limitations. To do what's best in a moment for your soul's evolution, not from decisions you've made while in the body in a civilization that's so egocentric. So you build a library, build in your name, and now stuck in this solar system, and you might have outlived the evolution of this solar system, but you got to reincarnate here, keep doing the same shit over and over again until finally somebody bombs that library, or somebody renames it because they paid more money. Another one came in that, no, this is not going to be called that, right? It's going to be called with my name. I'll donate you $10 million instead of 5. And then you're finally, I can move on.
So then, in terms of ensuring, or I guess ensuring as best we can, because we don't know until we're there, that our souls move on, it's the cremation process and just telling all our relatives, like, hey, just
to be
have
celebrated.
a party.
Yes.
Yeah.
And many more in the West are starting to do that. I've seen many more of my friends because they read it somewhere. There are cultures that do the celebrations. Like I've seen a lot of my friends start celebrating their parents passing on and etc. and writing, rather than writing this negative blah, 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 I'm missing you. Wow, you lived such an inspiring life. You know, you've shared so much knowledge with me. I'm so deeply grateful. Thanks for being part of my life. That's it.
Okay. Got it. Well, get the party started. That's what I say, right?
Well, one thing I'll add about get the party started. We are in a period of time, and I think this topic was important. Listeners, viewers of this podcast, and just generally population of the planet will see substantially more death around them. So whatever it was experienced during COVID or etc., it will come nowhere close to what is to be experienced. And this energy that's happening today, the eclipse, and the parade of planets. Parade of planets creates an energetic portal through which souls can exit this dimension. So where I'm going with this, first of all, the souls that are not interested to stay in this dimension on this planet will be exiting. So there will be a lot of unexplainable death. But the bigger amount of death will come from death of so-called bots or bodies without a soul, and that has not figured out how to connect with the soul and has no intention to connect. And there is, so for example, following this technocratic way of life, or gray field values of domination, scarcity, competition, and etc., that is one of the indicators that either that body hasn't figured out how to connect with the soul or chose not to connect with the soul. And all of those bodies will be dying rapidly in many in large numbers in this period that we're entering, because they are supported by the matrix. Because one way of this body to be supported is by soul and spirit. That is providing the energy. That's why we call, once you connected soul and spirit, you became sovereign, because you're independent. Your survival is independent of matrix. You have your own energy source and you go on with your life. As long as you carry out activities that are aligned with soul and spirit, they keep supplying the energy. This body keeps staying alive. And by the way, scientists I won't find this study, but I'll mention it. My partner Maxime called me and said, well, finally the energetic code's loaded for this body to be able to live till 300 years. So now that the longevity of this body, this vessel has extended on a level of DNA and 200-300 years. And 2 weeks later, scientists found a study that something changed in DNA, where now the body can surpass the previous limit that they discovered in DNA was between 117 and I think 129 years, and now it has extended to 300 years. So as part of this transition, the longevity of this body will extend significantly. So if we think about this, like I'm 40, from a 300-year perspective, I'm like in my childhood. From 80-year perspective, I'm halfway through life. But from 300-year perspective, and those are the souls that connected, or those bodies that connected, or those personalities that dissolve enough of their identity and personality that are not true to connect with authentic version of their soul and spirit or their consciousness. Those are sticking around for a long time because the longevity of the body keeps extending. Though the bots, the ones that didn't connect to shit and are not intending to connect to shit, those are exiting very fast. And what we're observing right now, we touched on this previously, turbo cancer. 20-year-old gets cancer, 3 months later, death. They're explaining it as an mRNA. Yes, it's playing into that, but that's an example of how Matrix played out the events, right? Mm-hmm. Now all this sudden death, like I was just in Instagram, I have more and more things coming up, like 20, 30-year-olds, like, and some of them are well known, are dying out of nowhere, sudden heart attack. And they're like, oh, it's mRNA, right? Because it also impacts the cardiovascular system. Oh, turbo cancer. Oh, it's mRNA vaccine, and etc. So I think this topic that you brought up, once again, randomly but not randomly, is important because there will be substantially more so-called death around everyone because so many avatars are on the way out. It's going to be a small percentage of the population that will stay here. So, but before we get there, many will exit. And once again, it's a positive part of the process because everybody had a choice to align with the vector of this planet or not align. And if you haven't, it's not going to be pleasant to live on that planet for this planet, for that, let's say, being or a soul or whatever. So they're going to incarnate elsewhere in a low vibrational space, because if they stay in high vibrational space and they haven't aligned with those values, the whole body, the whole thing will be just burning, because it's like, what's the best way to describe it? It's like, going into a desert from like living in Siberia, Russia, minus 60-degree temperatures, and somebody transplanting you to plus 50-degree temperatures that you've never experienced. This is an unpleasant environment to exist in. And this is what's happening energetically, from low vibration to high vibration. Low vibrational beings, to them, this environment is unlivable. They're like, I don't understand how these other beings live here. So hence low vibrational civilizations are out. Bots, because they don't have their own energy supply, and the matrix stops supplying those bots with energy. And that's where I was going with, that's why it's important to connect to soul and spirit. If you don't have your own supply, the matrix stops supply of the bots, and they're just going to be dying unexplainable death, right? Depression, suicide, heart attack, turbo cancer, car accident. Like six mountaineers just got wiped out. You've probably seen it because in the news, because one of them was he did a Netflix documentary that became very popular. Dim Sai, I think his name, or something like that.
I know, I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, so 6 people just got wiped out. That's rapid exit of ones that they're not supposed to stick around here. And then it gets even crazier. A friend of theirs was mourning so hard. She was, I think, in 20s, was mourning them so hard that she got heart attack and died too. From mourning.
Oh, wow.
But when I look at underlying energy, that mourning person was either a bot or representative low vibrational civilization. That's the exit. And some people will describe it, oh, she mourned so hard and exited. And there's going to be so many more so-called let's call them irrational death that will be rationalized. A lot of them will be rationalized by vaccine. Yeah, I wouldn't. All these deaths that will unfold. It's a healing process for the planet, and whoever is exiting, it's also better for them because they're not going to be stuck in the environment that is literally burning them or is like toxic to them per se. That's the word I would use it. And the ones who this environment is for, they're more than happy to stick around and do what's necessary to stick around.
Yeah, I just want to say I really like how you phrase that, where it's super high vibration people downgrading to a lower vibration place to sort of fix it up.
Yeah, and pull it. We're pulling. Our souls are pulling this place to high vibrational space by our presence. So as a result, we want this planet to move to high vibration as fast as possible. Other civilization or bots want to slow down this process because it's burning them. It's literally killing them. That's why their avatars, or shouldn't call avatars, their bots or their biorobots, which are bodies without the soul, are dying from all types of issues. So to them, it's like, oh, they're trying to pull it down because they also want to live, right? But they have a misperception of life. Yes, some of them will not exist ever again because they don't have infinite souls like we do. If we die, this body dies, and it's like whatever. Like this soul is incarnated in so many other dimensions at the same time. I'll incarnate another dimension. Doesn't matter. For them, for some of them, it's end of the road, death. And for bots, it's death, and it's fair for them to be scared because the only thing they have is literally personality that was shaped within aspect of this body, biological body. So when the biological body dies, that personality does not exist anymore. And so that's why there is so much fear. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it for this week. Let's see what goes on with the planetary movements, the eclipse, the energies, and the shit show we call planet Earth.
Or heaven. That
or heaven,
planet Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, heaven to be. Yes, transformational process is always a shit show. And there's a lot of conversations like, well, if a planet is ascending in vibration, why so much garbage is unfolding? Well, that garbage, what people call garbage, is transformational process because all things has to break down. Death of people that we might know or know, death of systems like a monetary system, educational system, a healthcare system, and the list goes on. Like now, so many data points that Western healthcare system was created to keep you sick and have a long lifetime value of a customer. And so all that, as it's breaking down, the perception could be that it's a shit show, but in reality, it's a very constructive, positive process. Everything from death of some bots to death of systems, because it creates space for this new systems to emerge, new people to be born with predisposition for wanting to be here in high vibrational space, bringing more high vibrational energy, bringing more high vibrational values, bringing more high vibrational technologies, and the list goes on.
All right. To be continued.
To be continued.